Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today we are back on F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, and we have the Japanese Grand Prix. If you just saw there, we had 2 spec upgrades to try and help us out a little bit going into next season. We do have reg changes as we found out in Singapore, so not too much focus will go into the rest of this season. We're just going to try and get through it and be ready for next season. So let's get into this weekend in Japan, and it will rain for the whole Grand Prix at 80 something %, so around the 80s region. Thankfully, that means we won't be on the wet tyres. We'll probably be using the inters, but that is a bit of a shocker for sure. We're still the second worst car on the grid because our upgrades haven't arrived yet, so let's hope to God we can salvage something in qualifying. So here I am finishing my first run in Q1, and as a controller player, this experience is a bit horrifying, especially the S section. The rest of the track I can deal with fine, but that S section is so difficult to nail on a controller, so that first run wasn't very good. So we're going to go round again. I feel like we did gain a bit of time at the S section. Now coming towards the line, where will we be? P18. Not looking too great here. 4 minutes to go. We can get into the pit lane quickly and give it one last shot. So here we are on our final run, and look how much better we do at the S section, taking it in 6th gear pretty much throughout the whole thing, and we're gaining quite a bit of time. It may not look like much for now, but this is a big improvement. 2 tenths, 2.5 nearly. But now we have an issue. Nikita Mazepin is in front of me. Will he get out of the way? Not for a long time, but the GOAT is giving me a tow on the back straight, going into 130R. What a legend is Nikita Mazepin. Now that will help me out hugely. I'm improving by half a second, which is exactly the kind of time we need to gain if we want to get into Q2. Through the final chicane, on the exit, good, decent exit to be fair. And now to the line, DRS enabled. Did we make it through? I didn't quite see that there, but we did cross the line. I feel that was a much better lap than the first 2 tries. And now we will see the results in Q1. Verstappen ended up topping the session, but where are we? P16, get in there. We just about made it through. But unfortunately for us, we used all of our sets of the soft tyre, so there's basically no point running in Q2. So how about we go in and look at the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, Lando Norris and Ocon, Vettel, Stroll, Giovinazzi, the owner driver, Sainz, they've taken a grid penalty, Russell, Charles Leclerc and Gasly, Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda, Kimi Raikkonen, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Nicholas Latifi. Mazepin, Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, Fernando Alonso and Robert Schwartzman. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
Well, how about it? We're up into P10 on the grid out of absolutely nowhere because so many people took a grid penalty. A lot of the front runners have actually helped us out here, and if I did Q2, maybe we would have been P9 ahead of Giovinazzi. It depends what kind of lap I'd be able to do. But now, on the intermediate tyres, we're in front of Carlito, who is right behind me. I'm going to have to try and do everything I can at the start. It will be very important to have that track position. I don't want to end up falling out of the top 10 early on, because that could shape the way the race will go for the whole thing. Here we are lining up on our grid slot, and the goal is to jump Giovinazzi and maybe try and attack Stroll up ahead. We're now revving up to 5 red lights here for the Japanese Grand Prix. 5 red lights and they're out, and we are underway here for the Japanese Grand Prix, and it was not a bad start for me. We short shift immediately up to 3rd gear. Carlito has had a horrifying start. Meanwhile, George Russell looked to attack me. I'll try and get Giovinazzi and Stroll, who we nearly clip our front wing with, but now we're side by side with the Aston Martin car. Can we make the move through the S section, down the inside? Stroll will come back at me here, but we just about stay ahead of him, and we're up into P8 already. A perfect start. I could not have had it any better. We're now having to try and focus on trying to catch up to Vettel here, but that start was impressive as hell. We did a great job. Hamilton is in the lead. He retained the lead from pole position because why the hell would he not be in the lead? But now we immediately move on because not much is going to happen in these conditions. At the moment, we are looking at Esteban Ocon in P5, holding up Lando Norris, who is looking to try and get into the top 5 and maybe catch up to the Red Bulls and the Mercedes. But at the moment, Ocon is really holding up Lando Norris. Meanwhile, for me, I'm still in P8, trying to actually get a groove here and try and keep up with Vettel. We're not too far back behind him. We're not under pressure from Stroll behind us. So we're looking very good in this Grand Prix. We just need to try and keep it clean and make sure we don't make any big mistake that will take me out of the top 10. But now we move on to look at the midfield battle, and Pierre Gasly is one of the many people stuck in that train. And I wanted to film Gasly here because that camera angle is amazing here on F1 2021. There isn't really much more to talk about at the moment at the beginning of this Grand Prix, except for the fact that I'm still behind Vettel and I cannot seem to get a good run on him at the moment. But I feel with a good amount of patience, we will be able to make the move. Look how close I am to the Aston Martin car. We move on to lap 11. We are still behind him, unfortunately, but the good news is we're not losing time. In fact, we're pulling away from Stroll. So the pace on the intermediates is actually quite good. I mean, if we did this race in the dry conditions, I think I'd be absolutely eaten alive. I'm not comfortable driving around Japan as it is. So imagine in the dry conditions on a car that really isn't up the field, it would be very difficult. But as I've played this game for a while, I am actually really accustomed to these kind of conditions, and now we're gonna let it show. We're right behind Vettel, we're in the slipstream, and we're gaining time with our Ferrari engine. We're gonna pull to the left hand side, going into turn 1. Can we actually make it all the way around the outside of the Aston Martin? It looks like we got the move done. There was contact. Vettel just about keeps the car under control, but let's have a look at that again. We moved to the left and we went the long way around of Sebastian Vettel. We did go a bit off the track there, but there was not really much I could do. There was a lot of understeer, and Vettel seems to have understeered into me, but that move was absolutely vital, and what an overtake it was. Of course, there was a bit of contact, but I think I can give credit to myself. That was quite an interesting move. But Vettel, yeah, he just understeered into me there, and he may have damage. Let's hear from Jeff.
Their tyres are 11 laps old. The car behind has minor front wing damage. Front wing damage, the time last lap was a 1 minute 40.8.
Well, that is definitely very unfortunate for Vettel. He does have a bit of damage, but, whoa, what's happening to Charles Leclerc? Charles Leclerc is slowing down. Is it an engine issue for the Ferrari? I'm not sure. It doesn't look like an engine issue. There are yellow flags, of course. I can't really tell due to the spray. Let's have a closer look. A puncture! Out of absolutely nowhere, Charles Leclerc has a puncture on the front right. Why the hell does he have a puncture? I have no idea, but you'll have to go and get that fixed. Talking of fixing something, Vettel is getting a front wing change. Of course, well, that is unfortunate for Vettel. He was doing a good job. Meanwhile, someone who's doing a decent job is Ricciardo, making an overtake on that Williams. Leclerc has finally made it into the pit lane, and that is basically race over for the Monegasque. But for me, I now have to try and focus on Ocon, who is actually now behind Lando Norris, and not only behind him, but 10 seconds behind the McLaren. So that really does show the field spread that we are dealing with. But for now, we do have 2 cars in the pit lane, a Red Bull and a Mercedes. Ocon and I will stay out, and I want to do the overcut on Esteban Ocon, because at the moment, if you look to your top right, I am improving. I'm meant to pit this lap, but I don't want to. I feel quick on this set of tyres, and they're not wearing out too much, and maybe an overcut is the way to go. We have no idea. If I remember to Turkey in real life in 2021, Hamilton went way too long and pitted for fresh tyres and he struggled. So how about I try and stay on the old Inters? And also another option is trying to drag these tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. Remember, you don't have to make a pit stop in these conditions, so it is possible. But to be fair, I won't really be gaining too much, except for maybe being ahead of Lando. But either way, I think the best way to go is to pit in. We don't have maxed out tyre wear, so we cannot really risk it here today. So into the pit lane, we slow down a bit too much, but better safe than sorry. But hopefully the team can get me a good pit stop. My in lap wasn't too good, as my DRS failed. We don't really need it. So Lando will go through into P5. I think he will probably finish there today. He's a little bit too far away from the front runners. Meanwhile for me, good pit stop, 2.8 seconds. Will we be ahead of Ocon? It looks like it will be quite close. No, I've been corrected there. Ocon will fly through on the straight, and my overcut failed. That is a bit disencouraging. I'm going to have to push harder now to try and keep up with him. Thankfully for me, we didn't end up losing too much time. We look further back. There is Nikita Mazepin holding up Alonso and my teammate, and of course he spun. Oh my word. What was he doing there? He just went flat on the throttle. We're not on full traction, Nikita Mazepin. He spun round and, well, that's not going to do anything, is it? I am mainly relieved that he didn't wipe out my teammate in the process. However, I wouldn't have minded too much if we did have a safety car. Maybe we'd see a bit more action here today. But for now, I don't really mind too much.
It looks like we're experiencing an ERS software glitch. Okay, touch wood. Seems like the fault has resolved itself.
What? We have an ERS software glitch. I cannot use overtake. What do you mean that they actually fixed the issue? I cannot press the overtake button. This is awful stuff. I need that overtake to try and catch up to Ocon. You can see for a moment my red light was flashing, so I cannot use the battery. What is that about? Either way, thankfully, the issue won't stay for too long. There it is. It's come back. I don't know what that was about. I don't know why Jeff even said it got fixed about 2 seconds ago. But we move on. And oh, that's Max Verstappen. He has spun round. And he's in the gravel. I don't know why the fans are cheering that loudly, considering he's a Honda-powered car. But Checo will go up into P3. But Verstappen found himself quite close to Bottas, or that Mercedes. I'm not sure which one it was at the time. But he was doing a really good job keeping that Mercedes under pressure. But now, all that hard work has been undone. We move back to my battle, and am I making progress? Not quite. I'm not able to get close enough to the Alpine. I'm not sure why. It was a lot easier to try and follow the Aston Martin, but through that final chicane, I cannot seem to get the run. I'm getting very close to him, don't get me wrong, but Ocon is always too far ahead for me to look and make a move. Look how close I am behind him. So now we're going to begin the final lap. Can this one be the one? Not quite. I just cannot get the traction that he has over the bump there. So now we're starting the final lap, and I may have to settle for P7. But either way, what a big result for me if I'm able to finish here. But I would really like to get past Ocon. Look how much I'm so close to the Alpine. But unfortunately, I cannot do anything about it. So for now, we may as well move on to our race winner. It isn't Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas will cross the line in Japan to win the Grand Prix. And it was a pretty boring race, I'm not going to lie. But he does take 25 points that he really does need in the road to his first ever World Championship. 3 races to go. Can he make it? We'll find out. But for me, I could not get past Ocon at the end. I'm going to try and give everything at the final exit, but I couldn't do much. But either way, P7, big result and big points for the team.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
Well, that was quite an interesting Grand Prix from my perspective. I actually really did enjoy driving around the wet Japan, but that, guys, will end today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today, an incredible performance.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Shine, 'cause we're golden. They can't